on here with our KIM10 speakers. Today, you're going to hear from another wonderful woman who has gone through the Radiant Speaker Academy and on to the certification to become a KIM10 speaker. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. And I'm so excited to introduce you to someone who I've gotten to know over the last year and has become a friend. And I'm so excited for her to share with you her experience with the KIM10 stage. Hello, Lemon.
Hi, Lisa friend. Thanks for having me.
For those of you who don't know, that's her signature introduction. Hello, friend.
I
I
know
love that.
it's so I didn't even realize I say it so often until like Michelle said it. Justina Abbott said it to me the other day. She's like, if you didn't address me as like hello friend or hey friend, she's like, I would think something is wrong with you. Like,
That's so cool. Well, listen, Lemon, before we get into talking about the experience that you had going through the speaker training, I would love it if you just share a little bit about your background, but also who is Lemon? A little snapshot into the life of Lemon.
I love it. So I am a wife. I'm a mom. I've got 2 boys. We're approaching the middle school year, so please pray for me. And I live in South Georgia here in the States. And then before I met Lisa, I actually own a multiple six-figure marketing agency. I have my master's in marketing. I climbed to the top of the corporate ladder at 26. I was in the C-suite and felt like I'd maxed out corporately. And since I started working for myself full time, and I've been full time by myself now for about 6 years, which is crazy
Mhm.
and exciting while having kids in the midst of it. And so, yeah, it's been super, super fun.
So cool. And you and I met because of the wonderful gift of Girl Power Alliance that came into our lives.
Preach it.
And yes, exactly. It is a gift. It truly is a gift, and it is something that God is using on the earth to raise up women and pretty soon men.
I'm excited. My
Across the
husband's
globe.
very excited.
Yeah. So stay tuned. That's another episode. But Lemon, so in Girl Power Alliance, there's multiple things in there that women can tap into in terms of even communication, but specifically the Radiant Speaker Academy has been launched, and part of that is also going to the next level of being certified. So I would love it if you would share what prompted you to actually take that training and the certification.
Yeah, great question. So I remember when I first joined Girl Power Alliance, I was having a conversation with Natalie Lawson, right? Because my Molly's the one who enrolled me. So I don't have like an upline or anybody to like have a conversation with. And so, except for Molly. And so I was talking to Natalie and she said, what do you want? And I was like, this is going to sound so crazy, but I want to be invited to speak at like Jenny Allen's conferences and things like that. Like that's where I want to be and sharing the things that I'm passionate about. And she was like, "Okay, then do it. Like, let's do it." And this was before you guys had ever talked about a Kim 10. This was back in like May of 2022. So before this was even like a thing. I said, "This is what I want. It's on my heart." And so then a few months later, God was like, "You're going to start a podcast. This is how you're going to reach women. This is what you're going to do." And I said, "Okay. I really don't want to do that, but thank you so much because I've done it before. I hated everything about it." And God was like, "That's okay. You're going to do it anyway." And so I stepped into my podcast and fell in love with just speaking to people and having conversation with people and
Mhm.
really pouring out in this capacity. And so when I saw the Kim 10 come up, I was like, oh, well, this is the thing I said I've been wanting to do now for 6, 7 months. So I guess I have to do it, right? Like it almost would have, I feel like it would have been disrespectful to the vision God gave me to not go forward and do that and cultivate this skill more. And so, of course, I had to get the certification and do these things. I've been telling people, I think the vision of the Kim 10 before you guys even spoke what the big vision and things were. I was like, that's what we're going to do with this event. And that's what we're going to do with these speakers. And everybody was like, okay, I'm on board with that. And so really it was a necessity for me for the things that I think God's calling me to do.
That's so cool. So just to reiterate, I know I've said this before in these interviews, but the KIM10 framework is so we're going to take over the TED Talk world. We're actually going to replace it. we're gonna come front and center with Kingdom speakers, Kingdom impact message in 10 minutes. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you did the 9-week training, and then you went to the 2-day certification. I would love it if you would share a little bit about that first day where you gave your your raw message and got the coaching feedback. What was it like for you to have that kind of an experience to get coaching feedback on your message?
Yeah, I love this because I was doing something outside of my norm. So if somebody asked me to come speak about marketing, I need zero prep for that. And I've spoken at conferences about that. And I know you could see my energy was different when I spoke at Activate about marketing versus giving my Kim 10 because it was so different than what I was used to doing. And so I've spoken on stages countless times before about something I've been honing in for well over a decade. And so coming in and doing this, it was such a blessing to me to have the feedback from everybody, and I loved how intimate the space was and how comfortable everybody was. Like, I mean, I was very tired. I had flown in that morning, from the other side of the country, and so I literally landed, and then 2 hours later, I was giving this first run of my Kim 10, and so I was tired.
Wow.
Just showing up and doing it, but having the feedback and then listening to the feedback from everybody else was so invaluable. I think to me, like, I could not put a price tag on just hearing the feedback from everybody else. And then everybody got together that night at dinner. I don't even know Lisa, right? So you probably didn't know that, but a bunch of us got together and had dinner Tuesday night and just had conversations about how we could tweak our Kim 10s and the feedback that we were each getting and how we could incorporate that into, maybe you said something to one person and didn't give that feedback to another person who wasn't in the room yet. And so we got to share all of that feedback and really like rework our Kim 10s together. And it was just such an incredible experience to have that interaction with the other women.
Wow, no, I did not know that. That is so cool. I love to hear that. That would have been, yeah, totally a rich experience just to have that debriefing and shared feedback. That thank you for sharing that with me. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
it was super fun. It was super fun.
Yes, and I know that a lot of women who have expressed the same thing is just like that listening to other people get coached or get their feedback as well was so valuable to them. I know some and even if you said that right there in the room that this was worth the investment right there, just like
Yep.
more than the investment, because just being able to hear and apply those same things, it's kind of like anything, when God speaks something to one person, it's not just for one person.
Yes.
It's often for, "Yes, I'm gonna take that too, God." That's
Yes,
the same
it
idea.
that's yeah, I think that alone made it worth it, right? Like, the other things are great, and that's wonderful, and I have a speaker reel and all these things that I can use, but just the feedback that I got and the notes that I got to take, and everybody was so good too about recording dress rehearsal too, and so, like, people were texting me the video of my dress rehearsal and the feedback that I got, and, we're up close and personal. You guys probably didn't even notice, but people are, like, sitting right behind you filming to get the feedback to send back to each other, and so I
Wow.
have that to consistently reflect on and work on and look at, so that alone I think was
Brilliant.
worth it. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. That's brilliant. So, okay, so then the second day, and I know for you there was a lot of life things happening in the midst of those 2 days. Not only were you flying in just, a couple of hours before, but then overnight that you were also hit with some things, but you stepped onto the stage the second day and gave your revised Kim 10. So the question I want to ask you first is this. What did that do for you to know like there was a deadline? We had, there was the first run through and then the second one was like there's no you're just going to go through it. We're not going to stop you to give feedback. There's no over redos. What was it like for you to have that kind of deadline pressure?
Yeah. No, I loved it personally for me. So, actually, I have a master's in journalism too, and I used to work at a newspaper, and so deadlines for me, I need them. My husband laughs, that's probably why I work well for myself because I
Cool.
self-impose deadlines or I don't get things done. And so, because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, well, it's on the calendar, that means it has to get done," even though I set the deadline and I could move it, but just knowing that, like, there wasn't another option, and it's funny you brought that up because Michelle gave me the option to back out if I
Mm,
needed to, because of the things that happened or, she said, "Hey, you could go in a few hours. You could do this later, and that's
yeah.
okay." But I for me personally, I was like, "No, I signed up to do a thing. I feel like this is a test from God to see if I'm actually gonna go through and stick to the
Mhm,
commitment that I made, and if I'm really gonna be obedient to the thing He's called me to do in the midst of chaos. When
mm.
the enemy is throwing something at me, will I still do what He's called me to do?" And so, for me, I needed the deadline, right? Because it was a lot of life that happened, literally 5 minutes before I got on stage, and I cried and I got all
Mhm.
of these negative emotions out with Michelle in the corner of the stage, and then wiped the tears away and had to get up and do the KIM10, and it was gonna be recorded, and I'm terrified to see what that looks like now, because I know that I was probably a little bit of a hot mess in comparison to what I normally am. But I got it done, right? Like, I was still obedient to the thing God asked me to do, and I think
Mm.
that's all God really wants from us is the obedience.
I love that. It reminds me of one time I heard from one of my coaches years ago about commitment over convenience.
Mm,
When we make a commitment, sometimes at the end of the day, when we have to fulfill on that commitment, it's not convenient. It's not always
yeah.
convenient, but
Nope. It was not convenient to do that at all. In any way, shape, or form was it convenient.
so I just respect that and honor that. That's quite a trait of integrity, and that really showed through. It was powerful. Yeah, it really
Thank you.
came through powerfully. So now that you've gone through and you've done the two-day certificate, you're certified. You're a KIM10 speaker, certified speaker. What has that done for you? What is the result for you, or what are you taking away that you didn't have before?
Yeah, so I definitely think so if you look at my old podcast episodes, they're 30, 45 minutes. Now I've condensed them down to like 15, which is beautiful. And that includes intro, outro, the whole kit and caboodle, where we're only speaking like 12-ish minutes. So my episodes are way more impactful. I'm getting more downloads on them, which has been beautiful, which is bringing me more leads. But then I've also been asked to speak at so many conferences. Actually, I had to have a friend manage my inbox because things were slipping through the cracks in the best way possible. So I was like, I need somebody actually to help me manage the speaking engagements that I'm getting asked to do. So
That's
it's turning to
awesome. That's so
I
good
know.
to hear.
I know. My poor family, they're like, Mom, you're always speaking at something. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And we've only been home, what about a month? Not even a full month yet, Lisa. We've
Mhm.
been home.
Yeah. That's right, from the event. Well,
Mhm.
that's what happens, right? When we say yes to God, he's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
here it is."
Yeah, I definitely think it was like a test, right? So that thing
Mhm.
that happened before, it was tough and it was hard and it impacted my family
Mm,
in very big ways. And then I think, yeah, like I said, I think God was looking to see was I gonna be obedient to what he called me to do.
mm.
And when I was, it was like, here's now the harvest for you because you were obedient to what I asked you to do.
That's so good. It reminds me of that quote from Les Brown. I think I even shared it in the training about how it's better to be prepared and not have opportunity than to have opportunity and not be prepared. But
Yes.
often what happens is we find that when we do get ourselves prepared, the opportunities are all around us. They're all around us, and they present.
100%, and then you're gonna so if you do the KIM10 training, you're gonna need I mean, in my experience, I needed somebody to come and help me and manage the inbox and the DMs because it was a flood of people, and it wasn't even because they saw that I was certified or anything, they saw that I was speaking, and
That's
they
so
saw me
cool.
just differently because of it, and then when I say, "Oh, well, I'm certified in this," they're like, "Oh, well, now I definitely want you."
That's so cool. That's so awesome. So this brings me to our last question here is if someone was listening today and they're sitting on the fence of going all the way to the certification, taking the speaker training, go to certification, what would you say to them?
I would say do it. And I would say that it is not going to be easy, right? The enemy is going to throw things at you. When you know that you're supposed to do something, the enemy is going to throw big, hairy, scary things at you. Like I had friends who went through some very like intense things. They couldn't get there when they wanted to be. And um, do it anyway. Just do it anyway because I know for me, I've had ample opportunity because of it. And I've had people see me differently, treat me differently. It's just done something differently for my business. Um, and it was just beyond worth the investment.
Wow, that's so good. So Lemon, if someone would like to follow you, where can they find out more about you?
I love it. Go to any social media and just type in lemon price. Do not Google me. You will get the price of lemons at a grocery store nearby, which I think is like a blessing and a curse, maybe, right? So yes, go to any social media, type in lemon price, and you'll find me.
So good. I love that. I love you, and thank you
I
so
love
much
you.
for taking the time today, and watch out for her. Look for her on a stage near you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
As you're listening today, you may have felt prompted to say, hey, I want to take that course. I want to become a much better speaker. I want to be able to speak with confidence, clarity, and transformational impact. If you're interested in learning more about how to become a certified KIM10 speaker and get a part of the movement to get on KIM10 stages, or just to up-level your skills as a speaker, then I want to invite you to check out the link in the comments below, wherever you're listening to this, and we'll send you information when the next round is open up. In the meantime, your voice is an instrument of transformation and needs to be heard, so let it be heard.